And why do you think we should listen to you, by the way?
My father came from a humble family, so he struggled, but he made it. One thing I knew at that point, I could not fail. That I knew. I was a CEO at 27 who has never established systems in an organization.
We had to travel from Kisii to come to Egerton as a case study.
I actually had culture shock. You know those schools you slash with a panga? Yani those things you tick when you're going to school is a panga is compulsory, not a slasher. We talked about Sauti ya kina baba. For Sauti ya Wanawake, we will not form it, but if there's anyone who is volunteering, we will support you to forming ya wababa.
Welcome to Stories of Significance, where we are intentionally transforming the world one story at a time. I am your host, Otumbo Vincent, the African leadership alchemist and a passionate believer in the power of purpose. Here, we uncover the stories behind the most inspiring African leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers. This is where real stories meet bold vision, stories that challenge us, stories that connect us, and stories that call us into transformation. Let us dive into today's story of significance. So thank you, Violet. It's good to have you here. But we would like to know you more. So who is Violet Muthiga? Where does she come from? Is she number one in the family or number last? So that we know how to treat you. And why do you think we should listen to you, by the way? Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Vincent, and thank you to Sav for the invitation. My name is Violet Wairimo is my real name. So I'm a second born of 3 girls. And my mother is the firstborn of girls in her family. And my mom was a bit more privileged. Yeah, she went to a good high school. My grandfather was a chef in Nyali. So my mother's life is a bit different, and my father's life is a bit different. So I was born from the two sides, yeah. The one that experienced a good life, and then my father came from a humble family, so he struggled, but he made it. Born and bred in Nairobi, I come from an army background. Those who know Moi Forces Academy in Nairobi, that is where I schooled my primary. I actually went to nursery in Moi Air Base, where earrings are not allowed, hair is pushed back, and you're always running. We are always running to school, to class. And and my father was very strict, by the way. So I couldn't go to a secondary school in Nairobi because I had been called to a secondary school in Nairobi, and my father said, you know, those Kikuyu guys, no, my daughter is not learning in Nairobi, ataenda mashinani. So I was one of those girls. So I went and schooled in a place called Maragua, a school called Ginda Girls. That is where I went to school. And it's actually the first time I'm talking about where I went to school and where I went to primary. It's interesting. I've never been in a sitting where I'm talking about, I'm always doing policy and talking about other things, you know. So I went to a school in Maragua, and I actually had culture shock. You know those schools you slash with a panga? Yani those things you tick when you're going to school is a panga is compulsory, not a slasher. A panga is a compulsory tool. A hockey stick. Those who went to schools where you come with a hockey stick, a box, a panga, we were those. So when I went to that school, I actually got shocked, and my father was very comfortable about it. But my mom was a softie. He was like begging my dad, sasa huyu atatoboa huku. You know, the way mothers are nice. But between my father and my mother was the disciplinarian. My father never hit us or beat us. He just used to say things and things happen. So Ginda Girls was not easy for me, especially from Form 1 and Form 2, because I was wondering what is happening. I was still wondering where I am, what I am doing. I'm in a limbo. And even there's a time I almost became number last in the whole stream, entire stream. And I think my soul was not settled, and I was wondering why my father took me to that school. But time went, I was promised a transfer. Those parents who promised transfers, my mom was one of them. If you perform, you're going to be transferred to another school. So in Form 2, I was number 8 in a stream of over 100 and something, just because I was promised a transfer. And when I went home and I showed my mom my results, hey, mom, hey, lazy results. My mom said, we will transfer you when you get to Form 3. And in a short story, I finished in kindergarten. So somehow I just got friends, when you get friends who you come from the same area, and I got accustomed. And by the way, we used to slash, serious slashing. And that is the first place I saw, you will, kulimia miti. What is it called? You will literally, punishment ni kulimia miti na flower beds. That was the school I went to. We used to harvest maize. When there was no water in school, we used to go to a river near Maragua River and come with water to cook for our dinner. It was such a strange school, but we survived it. We used to The school used to be very, very interesting. But just to say, we were the cream of the school. We were used to be told that, our headmistress used to say that. But we made it still from that kind of setting. And even now I can slash and I can dig. I think it was a good thing also. My mom really appreciated that. I actually can farm. Yeah. So that's the setting. Then I performed well and I went to campus. I got a call to Egerton. First I was called to Nairobi, and my dad again said, I don't know whether he thought I had many bad friends or something. He said, I can't go to Nairobi. I have to go far away where my friends are not in that university. So I was called for, I think, urban planning. By then, even me, I didn't understand what urban planning was. So we had an uncle we consulted, and then he said, urban planning is nice, but I still could not connect what urban planning is. Then I did the changes. They used to transfer and use changes, and I ended up in Egerton University. And when I got a letter to Egerton University, my father practically took me to see the school before I even checked in or reported to school. So at least I had an idea. The school was beautiful. Egerton is a beautiful place. An interesting one, by the way. So I did Egerton for 4 years. I did a master's in sociology, and my learning in Egerton was very interesting. I met friends that I'm with friends with family to today, and I moved now to the workspace. Yes.
One of the leaders I admire is the late Steve Jobs. And the late Steve Jobs says that there are things he never saw the value of them, but now where he was at that time when he was giving that commencement speech, he said, when I connect the dots backwards is now why I understand why I had to go through a certain phase in life. And in this event, we have a diverse background, probably people who don't know what slashing is. we could be having them here. I know even Mohammed Garib studied in India. There's no slashing in India. As much as he could be of your age. So let's go back a little bit. When you look back at your current age, your current experience, when you look back this story of where you studied, your parents, their parenting styles, do you see any connection to the woman that you've become today? What are the lessons are you drawing from your dad saying you can't go to study in Nairobi you have to go to Egerton, where actually for us Egerton was a case study. We had to travel from Kisii to come to Egerton as a case study. So what are the lessons you can draw back now when you connect the dots backwards?
I think the experience of learning the two different kind of worlds really helped me, because even in high school I was actually, interesting enough, I was a dorm captain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the experience of that life made me appreciate the other side of life, and also learn and be adaptive in life. So in my life, in terms of my leadership, I've learned to adapt, appreciate diversity, and also look at challenges in terms of opportunities for learning. By then, I could not understand why this is happening. And that has really helped me in the model of how I lead in the organization I work with. And the experiences have also made me to interact with very many different people. Maybe if I went to school in Nairobi and still studied in Nairobi, maybe I wouldn't have gotten those opportunities to interact with. So in terms of adaptation, in terms of appreciating the diversity, and also the hard life. For me, I would see it as a hard life, but some people, that is normal life. Yeah, just that difference, and seeing the experiences of others, so that I can always walk in other people's shoes, because the work I do is looking at the most vulnerable communities who live in marginalized area and in poverty. So when I'm able to engage with these communities, it helps me to understand, walking in their shoes and making decisions that will be uh, owned by them, and knowing that even these people have solutions at that level. My work is just to technically support, but they have a lot of knowledge, they have a lot of power in themselves that can be able to change the communities. Yeah.
You said you were called to pursue urban planning, but then again, you have a master's in sociology.
Mhm.
And how was the journey?
Mhm.
How are we transiting from urban planning to sociology and all that stuff? And finally, even getting yourself into Sauti ya Wanawake. Because also, we have what we call career identity crises. To a point where somebody can study and say, okay, mom, I'm giving you your certificate in medication. Now I want to go and do street music. So how did you navigate your path? And how was it the experience with your parents as well? Because I also believe we have parents here and we have probably students who are in that phase as well. And your lessons could help us.
Okay, thank you, Vincent. I think sometimes we don't relate to some of the courses. Kenya has many courses, and sometimes you wonder, okay, you've been called for this course, but you don't relate to it. And maybe your parents, in fact, my mom wanted me to be a teacher. Like, she thought I'd be a good I don't know why. She thought it was lucrative then. Anyway, yeah, for her, she thought being a teacher was nice, and really nice. But for me, we unfortunately, I didn't have many people who had gone to the university in the family that I could call. And at least nowadays, the young generation, you can call someone, everybody is going to university, you can consult. By then, even when you went to do the changes, you didn't even know what you're doing. You just say, I have this grade, where do I fall? That's how it was happening. If you are A, you do medicine. If you do what, if you grade what. But I naturally fell into sociology. And I was like Bachelor of Arts, and I went, and I didn't even think about it much. I was like, it's a process, it's a journey. You go to high school, when you perform, you go to university. And sometimes our lives are like that. And sometimes you don't have to calculate too much where you want to go. So for me, it was part of life. When you do this, you move to the next stage. So that is how I'm moving. But by the time I was finishing fourth year in Egerton, I did a course called rural appraisal, and then participatory rural appraisal. It was not part of the university, but it was an extra course you would take. And then we went for practicals in the community. And we used some tools to identify the community problems. We used some pairwise, some tools just were very interesting. We used onions, chapati drawings, and I thought, wow, this is interesting. So my path to the world in which I am grew from that stage. And again, in life, I had also seen a lot of my relatives who had gone back home because of a lot of violations in the family. So it's also something I thought I would work around. I was more into children's rights and also women rights and girls' rights. But I started off, in fact, my career path is very interesting. I started off at Deloitte, HR. That's how our education was interesting then. I don't know what happens now. But ukipata degree, you can do anything, isn't it? Degree ni degree Kenya, sindio? So I ended up in Deloitte. I was in the HR department. I stayed there. And Deloitte, you earn your money. Like ukiangalia your laptop, hata upati time, hata ujui neighbor yako anakaa aje. People work at Deloitte. You go to work at 6, utatoka 6, na hata ujaongelesha neighbor yako, you've not even made friends, you know. So when I stayed there, yani my work was on a computer, but by then I was young, I was being paid at least good money. Then I left, I think Deloitte. Then I went to be a volunteer at Childline Kenya. You know the Childline Kenya, 116. And I was a volunteer at Childline for 1 whole year. I was not paid even a single cent. So, and I don't know if the generation today volunteers, I'm yet to see much of that. So it's a process in life to get where you are. So, and I learned a lot at Childline because I was attached to programs, I was attached to finance. I would go to the counseling center they have at Kabete for the children. I would listen in to the calls, the 116. So I gained a lot of interest then when I was in Chadland. Then I transited to a Catholic organization where it used to work still called St. Martin in Nyahururu, and it used to work around disability, children rights. It had a very strong component on street children. So I gained my confidence and in that line of work. Then I left, I joined ActionAid. Then after ActionAid, I think I joined in, I did some work with Equity and MasterCard Foundation also. And then I transited now to Sauti ya Wanawake. So when I came to Sauti ya Wanawake, it was very interesting because I never thought I'd come work in Mombasa. One, I have stayed in Mombasa for over a decade. I think I've been in Saudi from 2012 to 2025.
Yeah.
That is my longest job. The rest I was just doing, I think I was still young. I was just doing 1 year, 6 months, and I was transiting to other spaces. And when I came to Saudi, I was coming for 6 months. I was holding brief for an organization that was just beginning. And I was just to hold brief for 6 months and then I go back to Nairobi. But another story, here I am still working for the women and girls in the coast region and enjoying what I do on a daily basis. And yeah.
I think I would like to pause and pick some gems from your story and probably address the young people in the room. How many of us are volunteering? Young people here. Even John is a young person volunteering. That is amazing. All right. I think, especially to the young people, one of the mindsets I believe we need to have is as a human being, you should never be idle. It's not good to be idle. Then experience is built on the job. You can't build experience via YouTube videos or by listening to podcasts. There's no experience you build there. You build experience by doing the work. That is how experience is built. And that is what I'm picking from your story. You didn't just study and then now you say, I have a PhD or I have a master's, now I need a good job. You actually went to a good job and left it to build your experience by volunteering with Childline Kenya. So I think it's very important to learn that in this life, experience is built by doing the work. One of the things that I subscribe to is what separates men from boys and women from girls is the ability to do the work. That's where experience is built. And that is where you build a pipeline of how you are building your career. You can hear from her transitions from Deloitte all the way to Sauti ya Wanawake. It's a very interesting thing, and that is why we are listening to her story. But if you are doing nothing, you don't have transitions worth of listening to. And I think we can clap for that, is it? Now,
Just to add, it's
yes,
worth the risk. You know, if you don't take a risk in life, you will not learn. So it's always nice to just say, if you, and the other thing my father used to say is, you can't be born, raised, married, and die in the same area. You have to leave for you to grow. So I think it's something. If you get a job in Wajir, I know most people would not want to go to Wajir, isn't it? Because it's a hardship area. But if you get a job in Wajir, there's something you will want, you will learn, and it will put you a step higher than most people. So taking the risks and also just venturing into new environments just to see what's there. I didn't know I would stay here for all that time. So I have even worked in areas called, there's a place I used to work called Sericho. Sericho is in the middle, between northeastern region and Isiolo. And yani umeshaona mahali tambarare, and when you reach there is no network, there is no hotel, unalala kwa mama, anakupikia breakfast, unampatia kitu, anakupatia mahali unalala mpaka na mbuzi, and you've gone for work. Yeah, that is when I used to work for Action Aid. They really work in areas which are marginalized, and it has helped me learn to adapt, and even people's relations. For you to be able to go to a community and convince a woman, you can do business with me. If I sleep in your place, wewe pika chakula, nitakuachia nini? Pesa. So it's a holistic way of looking at things. Yeah.
I wish yesterday was stories of significance when I visited you, because I felt now the story was getting there. But how did you find yourself in Sauti ya Wanawake? Just from all these experiences, how did you find yourself here?
How I found myself at Sauti is when I first took the job. By then, I don't count my years. I was 27. I was a CEO at 27 who has never established systems in an organization. One thing I knew at that point, I could not fail. That I knew. Because now you see, it's my reputation. You know, the way you guard your reputation. You don't want to hear, Violet went to the coast region, took over movements, and it crashed because of her. So I knew failing was not an option. Like literally, failing was not an option. So when I took the movement, we didn't even have an office. Action Aid used to host Sauti ya Wanawake here in Mombasa. And the step of, for me, even having an open mind to learn that for an institution to learn, there has to be systems, policies, structures that work. For me, I had worked for established organizations. I never thought, I didn't even think about policy. Like, I'm employed, we just follow rules that we found established. And here I am now establishing these rules and systems for an organization that right now we're running with over 10,500 women in the coast region. So for me, that was, thank you. For me, that was something that pushed me. And then the work that you do is quite transformative, if I'd say. The touching of lives of women and girls in the community, and you see them grow, you see them become economically empowered, you see them go to school, you see them take their children to school, is what drives me. Because, and I always say, In Sauti, there is no day that is the same as the previous day. So I've had how many years? Let's count. From 2012 to 2025. How many years are those? We are just getting, let's do 2024. That's 12. 12, 365 days. Because that work you never stop because we deal even with survivors of violence. So it's an everyday job. So my days have never been the same. I cannot say I have a schedule that is like this every day. Every day there's a new thing that is happening. Either it is challenging me or it's pushing me to go to the next level. So the beauty of also the work that I do, it really drives me. Yeah.
Is there something that pushed you? Is there a moment, is it of epiphany? No, English is the language of people like Grace, people like Helen. I'm trying to be there. So, is there something, is there a moment that, or an experience that told you, I feel this is the space that I need to work from and transform people?
Yeah. When I joined Sauti ya Wanawake, the first time the women came to the office with a survivor of violence, this was almost 70-year-old woman. And I remember she was from Taita Taveta County. The woman had been gang raped. She had come to Mombasa to Coast General, the GBVRC. So the women were coming to the office for facilitation to be able to go back home after treatment. And that woman was crying. I found her on the floor when I was coming into the office. And I kept asking, like, what is happening? And the women were narrating what happened to her. They brought her to hospital. And I was like, who does that on a 70-year-old woman? So the experiences and the cases I have seen cases from 3 months all the way to over 7 of women who have been violated and boys who have been also been violated. We have had cases of, and this is one of the cases that it just kind of traumatized me. And there's a Mama Sauti, and it also happened in Taita Taveta. And the girl had been murdered and the guy had hid the head. So kushikwa, akaenda kuleta kichwa kwa police station. Like, and this happened, actually, this one was not so long ago. I think it was last year but one. So knowing that what we do could either save or help someone who is in distress or has undergone that process, it's something that drives me to do what I do, because I know even if it is, I usually say, even if it is one life you can touch wherever you are, even one, it will make a difference. It doesn't have to be many numbers, just one who tomorrow will just smile and say, hey, mali nimetoka enyewe ni Mungu, because of the work that we do. So those experiences and seeing also how they also emerge as survivors and become people who are advocates for others is something that motivates me. And because the women are also volunteering at the community level for this work. And sometimes usually say, ukifanya kazi Sauti, it's like an addiction. You can't leave. I have tried leaving Sauti for a long time. Trust me. I have done interviews, but it's kind of an addiction to work in it. And sometimes people say it's a calling. The women will say, hii ni kama mwito, because most of the time you are working beyond working hours. You are working with vulnerable people you have to work with, So that keeps me going and motivating me that the work we do, we are transforming lives. We are touching even the young women with leadership programs like these ones. So it keeps me pushing. Yeah.
Wow. Maybe this is a point where we can talk to all of us and also share that it's very important to find purpose for what you do. You see, 95% of our lives will be spent at our workplace. So if you don't do what you really love or if you don't find purpose on what you're doing, then I think you are violating yourself, if I may use that word. So learn to find purpose in what you're doing, because you will spend most of your time doing it, even if it's habalat, sir. And I felt of asking you the reason why. I have the reason why you joined. I was about to ask the question of why you stayed, but you answered it. So if you've answered the question of why you stayed, then probably we should move to the next one, is where the challenges that you've experienced so far. After that, we will open a little bit of questions from the audience, and then we will continue further. So what are the greatest challenges that you faced in your journey of building the space that you are at the moment, and how have you been able to navigate them as a leader?
Okay, that's a good question. So when I at Sauti, I'm saying at 27, I was a CEO of a big. By this Sauti is, we have those elderly women who are board members. We have all kind of women, and it was difficult for me because sometimes bringing change in an organization and setting up systems and structures is not, change always comes with its own challenges. And being a young person then also was a challenge, because then, unatuambia nini, one big challenge was my age, but I also took advantage of it because I was a young woman. And secondly, how I navigated is that I developed I have very good people skills. Let me just say that. You can come in my office, you want to cause chaos. By the time you're living there, you'll be settled and okay. So I was able to earn the trust and credibility of the women. That was one. Two, I was able to learn the skill of listening. I listen a lot. I think this is the first time I'm speaking a lot within the panel. This is the first time I'm in a panel that I'm the only one. I'm always with other people. So I learned to listen a lot. And I also learned to take a back step before I make a decision. Those sometimes you can make a very rational decision because you are angry, you're wondering why these people are behaving in this manner. So taking a back step and being able to rationalize what is happening in your environment so that you're able to make a decision that is very objective and a decision that will not be tied to your feelings. Tunaambianga wanawake tunaambianga mambo mengi, so that they won't tie them to feelings. It's very, very objective in itself. The other challenge is there was a lot of expectations when I joined Saudi. By then, we had only one donor. And you see, as a CEO, one of my biggest role was to fundraise for that organization. And that was the biggest pressure I had. And you know how fundraising is done. It's just trial and error. You approach this one, but God has always been on our side, because we rely a lot of also on the guidance of God in this process, because we are working with people's lives. So that expectations and trying to manage the expectations was something I also learned. And then a movement of women is also not easy. In group dynamics, people feel differently. So learning how to understand group dynamics and also do conflict resolutions and management has been very key in what I do. The other thing is also to let people help you. Sometimes when you are the CEO and you're trying to establish, you want to do everything so that everything kind of falls in place. But letting people within your team to be able to help you also gives you a chance to sit back and reflect rather than doing all the time. Because sometimes you need to just pull back, look at what is happening around, and then make a decision. And it's very difficult for you to make decision when you are running the show sometimes. So letting other people to assist you and delegating roles to other people, that has really helped me. And the other thing is empowering the teams you're working with, empowering the women you're working with to be able to do the job you do. Sometimes we think when you empower someone, someone will take your job, but empowering someone or giving that person the skills to do your job means you don't have a gap, because probably I will not be in Sauti forever. And maybe I would fall sick, or maybe I would be tired and take leave. So that making sure there are systems that run whether you're there or not. And it makes your work easier and it makes you enjoy the work and you don't feel like you are burdened with a lot of roles. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think whether you are running a non-government organization, you are running a startup, you are running an established business, you are a head of department, it's very important to have systems, structures that work, and then having people who can be able to run them, and most importantly, capacity building them to have that power. And even the power to make decisions so that in your absentia, things can be able to run. And of course, I've also picked something that is important. And I think also, especially the emerging leaders can pick from that age is not really a barrier or a challenge, but you being able to be competent, being skilled, and then being able to relate with people in a manner that you can be able to build trust and credibility. I believe where there is trust and credibility, out of other things can be thrown out of the window. But when there is trust, there is lack of trust and credibility, other things are brought into the equation. So it is very important for us to be able to set up structures and systems, policies that work, equip people, have people skills, build trust and credibility. And where we are, by the way, was it on the 25th to 27th of last month, I think, there was a conference. It was an online personal branding conference that was talking about personal branding in the AI-driven world. And it was coming out that the difference between you and AI is actually your human touch that is backed up strongly by your credibility and trust. That if you are exceptional and people can trust you, AI cannot knock you out of the world. And especially when you are visible to that same world. But if you are doing your good things, but it's in the kitchen, then nobody will take care or nobody will care about your skills. So that is very, very powerful. And it's also, it is inspiring that you are a solution to your own challenges. That is very, very, very powerful. Have you ever felt like giving up in your
Definitely.
life? Okay, give us the details. They call it nowadays deets.
The deets.
Yes.
That's new. Sometimes, sometimes you feel like, have you ever had fatigue from what you're doing? Eh? Sometimes you feel, and then you say, kwani hizi issues za community haziishi? You're doing the change, you're driving energy and everything. Then tomorrow you hear another thing, you're wondering, what is happening in this community? So sometimes you feel like it is too overwhelming in terms of, yes, there's change, but again, because of the way the world is changing, the issues change and the concerns, they change. Currently, we're talking about femicide. We are talking about intimate partner violence. We are talking about digital violence, technology facilitated violence. And all those are forms of violence. And sometimes you wonder, when will it end? Because you also want to do something that you want to make society safer. There's more secure. Women, men feel safe in the community. So sometimes you get fatigue and you're like, hey, mali nimefika, imetosha. Then you sit down and then you ask yourself, okay, so if I stop doing this, what am I going to do with my life? You know, when it's passion driven, and you're like, maybe I just need to take a step, take a break, and then rejuvenate my energy, and then go and do the little I can at that level to at least change the life of a person.
Yeah. So then my next question comes like this. You've been working a lot with women. I am sure in between, of course, where there is women, there is men, where there is men, there is women. But in your view and your experience, where do men fit in the equation? And is there a time where we are likely now to have sauti ya wanaume? Just thinking. Is it something that is foreseeable, or where is it? Because everything, there is cause and effect wherever you go. What are your thoughts on that?
Very interesting, yeah. Very, very, very interesting question. First of all, I would say for advancement of women, we strategically need to work with men. Because even within the programming of Sauti, we have men within the programs that we do, because of if you're changing perception, you cannot change perception for women in terms of mitigating gender-based violence. You have to look at both sides, and statistics show the highest number of women. We have higher percentage of women being affected by GBV, but also the perpetrators on the other side are the men, and we live in one society. So they have to be strategic ways in the way we engage men to change their perception, because it's all about how you're socialized. Yeah, you know the socialization process. It's about how you're socialized. You will behave the way you grew up or what was put in you when you were a child. Sindio? So trying to unlearn that and ensure that we understand that violating someone, either male or female, is not right. It's something that might take time, because that is how people have been socialized, or cultures have been have put those aspects into people. And yes, there's space for men to be able to be advocates for women and girls' rights within the society. And you talked about sauti ya kina baba. For sauti ya wanawake, we will not form it, but if there's anyone who is volunteering, we will support you to forming ya wababa. So thank you.
And as we come to a close, the journey of Violet is powerful. And it's an example of what transformational leadership can. And I believe we all really desire transformative leadership, from our homes to our workplaces, even to the country level. And being adaptable, and the power of building structures that work, and of course, engaging in purpose-driven work. And I hope that this story is a testament for you to live here and stop sitting like a sweet potato waiting to be harvested, but going out there, working so hard to ripen yourself like a sweet banana, so that when we walk around, you can ooze an aroma, and we don't mind getting into our wallet and paying something just to have a taste of you. Thank you, and God bless you. That was another powerful story of significance. I hope you are living challenged, inspired, and reminded that your story too holds the ground to inspire and transform others. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a review if this story moved you, and most importantly, share this episode with your network. Until next time, lead with vision, move with purpose, and inspire with impact. See you next episode. Your story matters too.